Welcome to Michael's Kids Club Camp Creatology. Today we will create a paper bead bracelet. Join us for all 10 days of making. Enjoy!
Hi everyone, my name is Megan and today I'm going to show you how to make paper bead bracelets. So we're going to be doing this craft together. Let me tell you about some of the different supplies you're going to need in order to create these. There's a template online where you can have these triangles, and we're going to use these triangles in some of these very pretty colorful pieces of paper that you can print out. And we're going to trace triangles onto these colorful pieces of paper. Then we're going to roll those triangles up in order to make our paper beads. So make sure that you have some of your patterned colored paper. Make sure that you have this template. And then the other materials you're going to need are some glue. You're going to need a foam brush like this one. You're definitely going to want some scissors. I want you to have a small little bead box. And in order to attach the bracelet, we're going to use some suede. So this is what the Creatology suede looks like that you can use to make your bracelet. We're also going to use a little bit of water and a little bit of a cup and a pencil. And if you have palette paper, I'm going to use palette paper because it's slippery. And when I put glue on it, it's going to peel back up. So my paper beads won't stick down to my paper. But if you don't have palette paper, you can always use a paper plate. So feel free to use either palette paper or a paper plate. Let's get started. To begin with, we're going to go to our template and our colorful printed paper, and we're going to start making some beads for our paper bead bracelet. So you can pick out whichever one of these patterns you like, or you can use all of them. You can make some beads from each one of them. I'm also going to cut some of these triangles out, and then we'll trace some of these triangles onto the different paper. And then that's going to help us to be able to roll up some different beads. So you might notice that there's some wider triangles and some thinner triangles. So you might need one of each of those in order to help you trace some different shapes onto your patterned paper. So I'm going to cut one of these really long triangle strips. And if you don't want to use a template and you just want to try and cut a really long triangle strip on your pattern paper, you can do that too. So I have one of the wider ones, and then I'm going to take another one down here, and I'm going to make one of the thinner ones. Super long stretched out triangle. And cut this one out. And then I'm going to trace these onto some of these pattern papers so that we can cut out several different beads. Now this is just the bead shape that I'm using, but if you want to start making up your own bead designs, you can use those too. So I'm going to take some of this paper and I'm going to flip it over backwards, and I'm going to take the big triangle and I'm going to trace this big triangle, and I can see underneath my paper a little bit. I can see that pattern underneath. So I'm making it go the long way, and I'm going to go ahead and take my pencil and I'm going to trace this really long triangle. There we go. And up here. And these triangles can kind of fit together. So if you want to do two, you can put another triangle right next to it and have the tip be next to the wide part. And then you can get two for one. And then I'm going to go and take my thinner piece, and I'm going to go to one of the other color patterns, and I'm going to trace the thinner triangle onto this one. So you can turn your paper whichever way you want to, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a really long, thin triangle. And this triangle is going to be what we roll up, and the wider part is going to be wider, and then we're going to have a whole bead that we can put together. If you want to make a second one, you can put another triangle right next to it, and then you only have to trace like one or two lines, which makes it even easier and faster. So here I go. And now I'm ready to use my scissors and cut out these long, skinny triangles. So I'm gonna start with the thin one. I'm gonna cut this all the way down. I'm gonna cut that across. And I'm gonna cut this all the way down. So right now it's just a big rectangle. And you might know that half of a rectangle makes a triangle. So I'm gonna go from the end of this side and I'm gonna follow the line and I'm going to slowly but surely come all the way diagonal across the rectangle and get to the other corner. So now I have two of the skinny rectangles in this cool blue pattern. And then I have two of the wider triangles in this cool kind of zebra pink pattern. So I'm gonna do the same thing where I'm gonna cut this out like a big rectangle. And after I cut out the big rectangle, then I'm going to go on the diagonal and I'm gonna go from this corner and follow that line and cut all the way up towards the top corner. And now I have two larger triangles. So these are the wider ones and these are the thinner ones. And these are at least 4 beads to make your bracelet. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads on the bracelet that I'm wearing. So if you want to take some more time and you want to make a couple more beads, we can do that. I think I'm going to make 2 more big ones on this. So I'm going to trace them on this paper. And I'm going to trace this triangle. And then I'm going to put the triangle going in the other direction. And I'm going to trace this triangle. Then I'm going to cut out the big rectangle one more time. Big rectangle. There we go. And I'm going to cut from this corner and slowly and carefully follow that line all the way across the rectangle to get to the other corner. Now I have 6 pieces of paper that I can start to make some beads with. For the next part, I'm going to use a piece of palette paper to kind of work with my glue. If you don't have palette paper, feel free to just use a paper plate. That will work just as well. But if you have palette paper, it's kind of nice because the glue doesn't stick to it. If you don't have a paper plate or you don't have palette paper, you can always just have paper on top of your table. But just know that when you start putting some glue on your beads, it might start sticking to your table a little bit. So what we're going to do next is we're going to roll up the beads, and this is definitely my favorite part. So I'm going to take a little bit of a cup and I'm going to take some glue and I'm going to put some glue into the cup. And I'm not even going to fill the whole entire bottom of the cup. I'm just going to make a little bit of a puddle. And I'm going to put that much glue into the bottom of my cup. And then I'm going to take a little bit of water. And if you can't pour this water into the cup, you can always ask a grown-up for help. And I'm going to pour just a little bit of water into the cup. And I'm making a watered down glue mixture that's going to help all of my beads stick. So now I'm going to kind of swoosh the glue and the water together with my foam brush. And then I'm going to use the foam brush and I'm going to take one bead at a time and I'm going to paint with my glue all along the printed piece. So I'm going to paint this glue, and this is why I have palette paper or a paper plate underneath. And then once I've kind of painted on the design side, I'm going to take it and I'm going to flip it over to the white side, and I'm going to start at the side that is the widest part of the triangle, and I'm going to start rolling this paper up. And that little bit of watered down glue mixture is going to help. And when it dries, I'm going to be making a very cool bead made out of paper, just like this. So that was pretty cool. And then that's a bead that we can put our suede through, and we can string that bead onto our bracelet. So taking that triangle and starting with the widest side and rolling it up, I've been able to make a cute little paper bead. I'm going to put my paper beads off to the side and let them dry. I'm going to show you again. So now I'm going to take one of the thinner pieces, so it wasn't as wide this time, and show you what a smaller bead is going to look like. So I'm going to take that watery glue mixture with my foam brush, and I'm just going to paint all the way across the printed side. Peel it back off, whatever you're working on. It is easiest to pull it off of palette paper. And then I'm going to take the widest part of the triangle and start there and start to roll it up. Now I bet you already know that if I rolled it too tight, I won't be able to fit any string through it. So make sure that when you first start rolling that you leave enough space in the bead so that you're eventually going to be able to string it and make it into your bracelet. So we're going to lay that pretty pattern down and roll this really cool paper bead. And this project is a really fun way to recycle. So if you don't want to use these printed patterns, if you have some magazines or if you have some newspapers at home and you want to make a recycled bracelet, you can use those and use the same templates to roll up some beads. I'm going to put that one off to the side and I'm going to keep going. I'm probably going to paint about 5 beads, but you can decide if you want to paint fewer beads or more beads. All of that is up to you. Or hey, you can go crazy and you can make a whole chain if you want to, or maybe a little piece that you can put on the end of your backpack zipper pull. You can make a necklace. You can make all different kinds of things with these paper beads. I'm gonna put that over there. I really like this blue one, and I like that it's a little bit smaller than the other one. So I'm gonna put the foam brush all the way across the design. And it's just a little bit sticky on my fingers because we did water that glue down. So it's sticky like glue, but the water is helping it from making my fingers feel crazy. And then I'm gonna roll this piece up. And I think I'm gonna do one more bead with you before I move on. So you see me using this hand and rolling the bead, or you can leave it down on the paper and roll it up on the paper. There's lots of ways to make your bead roll up. Wrap it around and then get that end. There we go. One more. I'm gonna roll this up. And I really like the way these beads are looking so far. So I have them on my paper plate. I'm letting them dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to show you how to do the rest of the part to finish off your bracelet. Yay! Another cool looking bead. Put that here. Okay, now it's time to finish up our bracelet. So I'm going to put my palette paper and my printed papers off to the side, and I need a ruler. So I'm going to start cutting the suede in order to make my bracelet. I'm going to cut 2 pieces, and I'm going to cut these pieces each 13 inches. Now my ruler only goes up to 6 inches. Maybe you have a ruler that goes up to 12 inches, but I'm going to measure from here to here. That's 6 inches. Then I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to go back to the starting point and measure another 6 inches, and then I need 1 more inch to make 13. Then I'm going to cut the suede about 13 inches. And I don't have to measure the second one because I already know how long the first one is. So I'm going to match up another color of suede, whatever colors you want. And I'm going to cut so that both of these pieces are going to be about 13 inches long. Then I'm going to take the two pieces together and I'm going to tie a knot. So I put those ends through the loop and I tied a knot, attaching both of my pieces of suede together. And now it's time for some pony beads. So I'm going to pick whatever color I want to kind of go along with the beads that I'm going to use. And I need one bead at the very beginning of my bracelet. That bead's very important because it's going to help make the closure that's going to help you get it on and off your wrist. So I'm going to pick one of these beads and I'm going to string it through both of the pieces of suede cord. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and start picking out my pattern or my design. So I have two of these and I have two of these and I have one of the pink one. So I'm going to put the pink one in the middle. So I'm going to slide this paper bead onto my two pieces of suede. And then I might want to use a pony bead again to kind of go in between each one. So I'm going to take another pony bead and I'm going to slide it over. And now I have two pony beads on either side of my blue bead. I'm going to string on my white bead. And then maybe this time I'm going to put an orange pony bead in between those. Then I have my pink pony bead in the middle. And then maybe I'm going to use orange again. And feel free to use whatever colors you want to use. Then I'm going to use my white bead. And I'm going to match it at the end. So I'm going to make it the same as how I started with the blue. And I'm going to put the blue pony bead. And then the blue bead. And then one more blue pony bead. And check and make sure that it's going to fit on your wrist, or if you need to add some more beads, or if you need to take away some more beads because your wrist is a lot smaller, you can do that too. I'm going to move the beads kind of towards the center because I'm going to show you how to finish off this bracelet. So I'm going to put my beads off to the side, and here's how we're going to finish this off. We're going to take the end that we just finished off on, and we are going to slip these two ends through this last pony bead, or the pony bead that was at the very, very beginning, right next to the knot. So what you're going to do is you might want to do one at a time. And if I take the orange piece, I'm going to slip it through my pony bead. It might be a little bit of a tight squeeze, but sometimes I like to move my suede and that helps it go through the pony bead. And then I also need this teal to go through the pony bead. So I'm going to kind of pull these down so that there's some space for the teal to go through. And if you're having a hard time with this part, you might want to also use a toothpick. So if you have a toothpick, you can kind of help push your suede through this bead because it is a little bit tight to get through there. Or if you need a grown-up to help you get that suede through, I'm sure they'd be willing to help you. So now I pulled that piece through. And what's going to keep this bracelet from sliding off of your wrist is going to be one more knot. So now that I've tied, I have this knot and I just put it through this last, or the very first pony bead. I'm going to tie a knot right here. And so then what happens is I have a knot on this side. So when I try and make my bracelet get bigger, these knots are going to get stopped by that pony bead. So I can slide it onto my wrist and then I can pull, I'm going to hold on to it with this finger. I can pull both of those cords and make the bracelet tighter on my wrist. So you can make it looser and you can make it tighter by pulling on it. So that's a really cool paper bead bracelet. And we were able to make that together today. I'm so proud of us. So I hope that you had a lot of fun making these paper beads and making this paper bead bracelet. I know that I had a lot of fun, and I hope you make a lot of these and maybe give them to some different people and just have lots of fun this summer making all kinds of crafts. So thanks for coming again to this Camp Creatology class. I'll see you again soon. Bye.